the Department of State has diplomatic careers that are based like in Frankfurt, but they travel all over Central Asia, Africa, and Europe.
Right.
So they're gone like 90% of the time. They're never home. I mean, that's the worst travel. But a lot of them are single. But for families, it's hard. It was hard on my family. My dear wife, I would go reach out to the head of DEA in Mexico. They have a huge mission. They're under a lot of threat. If you know the story in the movie Narcos, Kiki Camarena.
Kiki Camarena, of course.
Every DEA office I've been in has a picture of Kiki on the wall.
Yeah.
They never forget.
Of course.
So when I reach out to them, they were very appreciative. You know, they were very deeply appreciative. So you have to understand their stress, their mission. I've done house calls. I met with a diplomat from another government agency once. They asked me to see him because they had an attempted home break-in. He was targeted.
Oh, yeah.
And because of the nature of his work, he had worked closely with all sorts of sensitive entities. And I said, can you come to the office? He goes, could you come to the house? I'm doing fine. My wife's fine. I just want you to talk to my kids. I said, sure. So I talked to the kids. They're doing their homework. You know, how you doing? You heard about what happened. They were a little bit older. They were elementary and middle school age. I could talk to them and just reassure. Well, that goes a long way. A little bit of kindness goes a long way. There wasn't any mental illness, but it was helping cope with the stress. And the parents were appreciative. So then they tell everyone in their section or office, hey, you can trust this person.
Yeah.
He understands your needs.
Is it hard to, like when you come into some kids like that you've never dealt with before, right? It's your first time going in there and they know, you know, they're kids and they know you're a psychiatrist, something traumatic's just happened in their life. Like they got to have a guard up. Like, is it hard to break that kind of guard down on the fly?
I'm a parent. I had a kid that was their classmate sometimes. So we were living among the people we serve and work with, you know, go to church with them, see them in the gym, run into them at the store, you know. So, you know, you just have to balance your boundaries.
What was life like for your family traveling around with you over these 14 years and going to different places?
It was very hard.
Yeah.
It's hard on families. People that do regional jobs, the Department of State has diplomatic careers that are based like in Frankfurt, but they travel all over Central Asia, Africa, and Europe.
Right.
So they're gone like 90% of the time. They're never home. I mean, that's the worst travel. But a lot of them are single. But for families, it's hard. It was hard on my family. My dear wife often felt like a single parent. I'd be gone 4 or 5 days, home for 2 days, gone 4 or 5 days. She got used to it, but it wasn't easy. It's hard on families.
It's hard on the marriage, too, because you're not around each other.
You're not around.
She
And
ever
she's
ask
in a
you to
foreign
leave?
country. No.
No. I mean, like, leave your job.
You know, there were a couple times when that conversation came up, you know, is if it's not working, I told her if it's not working for us, then I'll walk back. I'll go back to get another job in the States. But by and large, it worked. My daughter spent 8 years overseas, graduated in high school, moved back to Texas. My wife spent, I'm getting this right, a total of 11 years. No, she was overseas. I think 9 years.
So, but you were in for
and
14.
we were separated because of my work for 3 years. I was in Washington, she was in Texas, so I'd fly home on the weekends.
Whoa.
And then I was in London for a year, and she was in Texas. And then I said, I think I've had enough. And then I went home.
How do you, like, I've never been married before, but I'm going to be someday. How do you make something like that work when you're doing an amazing thing and your job is at like the highest level with high stakes, especially within your industry, like you're serving your country and the people who are kind of like the tip of the spear. But, you know, obviously for everyone, family is the number one thing and their marriage is the priority. Like, how do you keep a marriage, I don't know, healthy during such a long time period like that where there's so much sacrifice?
Well, it's a challenge, and the divorce rates among people that do this kind of work
Right.
friends of mine in the State Department, some in the agency, DEA, FBI, where your work takes you away all the time. You've had agency people in the show. They have two jobs. They have a day job, and then on weekends and evenings, they're doing their, quote, real job. So they're working long hours. It takes a toll.
Yes.
They're traveling. It's very difficult. And I would have to counsel people whose marriages were in trouble and falling apart in a lot of countries that I served in. And so it was very challenging for people. And you have to balance it. You have to have a strong foundation. I'm very fortunate. I've been married, 35, 36 years now.
That's awesome.
And I got grandkids and all that. Life is bueno, as a friend of mine says. But the thing that I wanted to do, that I deliberately did to help my family, is send them home every summer and pay a lot of money out of pocket for airplane tickets to go home to Texas throughout the year when there was school breaks, things like that. So number one, they could be around family and stay connected, all of us. And number two, my daughter would not forget her American and Texan roots. A lot of kids
cool
that
that you did that.
a lot of kids that grow up overseas get lost. Third culture kids, they don't have a sense of identity of who they are. So I think, and they miss out on American type
right.
things. Like my daughter, when she was 16, she learned how to drive. I'd take her out in Dallas and drive around. And then I talked to one of the admin people in Mexico where I was stationed at the time. I said, can she drive in Mexico with a permit? He goes, yeah. So on Sunday mornings, we would drive out to the airport and then back home to practice, about a 2-hour round trip from our house. And I said to my daughter, if you can drive in Mexico City, you can drive anywhere. She's a good driver.
Yeah, but the benefit, though, of this, obviously it is tough, especially growing up. Like, just obviously I didn't do it, but speaking with people who grew up around the world because their parents were diplomats and stuff, like, it's difficult. But your cultural appreciation and ability to adapt is on, at least from what I've seen in the anecdotal people I've spoken with, seems to be on a different level. So I would imagine, your daughter and even your wife have some skill sets in dealing with people that, people like us don't.
Well, my wife is Asian American. She grew up in Asia until she was 10, and
Where in Asia?
in Philippines, and then came here, and then of course our travels have, we've had to learn as individuals and as a family to adapt to all sorts of different cultures. That's not easy when you live in one place for 2-3 years. You get used to it, and then suddenly your time is done and you have to go to a completely different culture.
Yeah. I have a cousin who works for the State Department. Just put huge air quotes on that. I give him shit every time. It's definitely not the State Department. But he goes around the world in, different rotations. And I'm telling you, I won't say the countries, but you want to talk about going from opposite country to opposite country. Like, every time, it's probably been like 5-6 rotations at this point. Every time, like, where are you going now? There's nothing in common with the last
Well,
place.
I went from Russia, my first tour, to India. So coming from Texas, I didn't have any cold weather gear. So I ordered $2,000 of LL Bean for all of us, and then my boss in Washington walked in and said, "Oh, we may change your orders to Cairo." I'm like, "Are you willing to go?" I'm like, "Look, I'm new. I have to go where I'm told." But I said, "Could you let me know by this date so I could get my money back? I just ordered 2 G's worth of cold weather clothing." So, but that cold weather gear isn't really useful in India. And then we went to Mexico, where it's a temperate climate, and then went to Vienna after that. So then we got the cold weather gear out for the winters.
What was the total? Like, what was your exact order just over the 14 years? Exactly.
Let's see, Moscow for 2, in New Delhi for 2, Mexico City for 2. Vienna, Austria for 2, then Washington for 2. No, Vienna, Austria for 2, then Moscow for 3. I was going to do a 4th year, and they pulled me back to go to Washington for 2 in a leadership role, and then I went to London for a year, and so that was my 14 years.
Yeah, so you were you're doing a lot of opposites too in there.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
picking up for sure. Thank you guys for checking out this clip. If you haven't already subscribed, please subscribe and hit the like button on this video. It is a huge, huge help. And if you'd like to check out this clip's full podcast episode, that link is in the description below or right here. And finally, you can follow me on Instagram and X by using the links in my description below.